Um, I want to get Joshua on. Do we also have the letter from the Amazon guy handy?
I can pull it.
Yeah, let's pull it, and we'll have Joshua on.
Now, or should we wait?
No, we can take him on now if he's ready. Do we have that in the Michael Moore article about Michael Moore?
Yeah, I have the mic. I can pull both of those.
Okay, cool. Joshua Kahn Russell is the executive director of the Wildfire Project and a Michael Brooks Show regular, is joining us from California.
I like how you say that, California.
California. Joshua.
It's still sunny right now.
It's still sunny?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty energized, actually. I just, right before this, I was just outside working in my garden and not in this shirt. But it's just been so good to get my hands in the dirt this week, and to get to do it on a weekday. It's just really grounding me a lot.
Nice. That sounds good. I envy that.
But I got to listen to a little bit of the show while I was out there, and it made me crack up when you started the post game where you were like, it's Marx's birthday and we don't want to like be too, like weird stands. And so we're just going to talk about this for 5 minutes. And then you guys went off for like 45 minutes.
It's good content. And at least we stand Michael Jordan first.
Mm-hmm. Context.
Bridged defending Michael Jordan having no social conscience to a conversation on Marx, which in some ways is actually a great description of my ethos right there. I'm going to explain to you why to leave Michael Jordan the fuck alone, stop being a sanctimonious prick who demands that Michael Jordan fulfill your liberal infantile needs for him to do something for you. And out of that, let's talk about the German ideology.
Hey, I'm getting a little bit of a breakup. I'm just going to switch internets. It might be like 30 seconds of.
Okay.
Should we look at this Amazon?
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. All right. So Joshua, I want to have a couple of cover two stories with you, and then we'll do we'll talk about music. But let's start with this letter. If you could put it in front of me, David, that would be rad. Thank you. There were sick outs on May 1st. I hope everybody was in solidarity with workers at Amazon, Whole Foods, Instacart, Target. I'll keep saying this, and please, everybody, listen or watch the conversations with Dustin Gostella, with Dino, about labor organizing, labor history, strategy. We're going to be doing a lot more of that on this show. There is no path forward without mass labor. It's the singularly most important thing we can do right now. That's something I have really no doubt about. And while we're still in a place where there is very limited labor power, there's some energy for sure. But part of the reason there's energy is because of just how obscene things have gotten. A company like Amazon, with all of its resources, not giving people hazard pay or protective gear, and that being, somehow generally acceptable, is a good illustration of that. But there is a PR consequence of it. And there is a PR consequence of, as an example, how effective Chris Smalls has been and how brave he's been as an organizer and as an advocate. And that has led, I think, amongst, several other things. I mean, because I'm assuming here too that I'll read some of this letter from this guy, Tim Bray, who was a VP and a distinguished engineer at Amazon, that he quit basically over Amazon's conduct here. And I'm assuming this is a pretty blistering letter. Mm-hmm. I'm going to assume, you always have to assume there's more even on, that he's not being said, that is not being said. Let me quote some from this article, from this letter that he posted on his site. And this is tbray.org, and his name is Tim Bray. May 1st was my last day as a VP and distinguished engineer at Amazon Web Services. After 5 years and 5 months of rewarding fun, I quit in dismay at Amazon firing whistleblowers who were making noise about warehouse employees frightened of COVID-19. What with big tech salaries and share vesting, this will probably cost me over $1 million pre-tax dollars, not to mention the best job I've ever had working with awfully good people. So I'm pretty blue. What happened? Last year, Amazonians on the tech side banded together as the Amazon Employees for Climate Justice, AECJ, first coming to the world's notice with an open letter promoting shareholder resolution calling for dramatic action and leadership from Amazon on global climate emergency. I was one of 8,702 signatories. While the resolution got a lot of votes, it didn't pass. And he goes on, and let me just fast forward to the COVID stuff. I'll read a little bit more. Fast forward to COVID-19 era. Stories surfaced of unrest at Amazon warehouses, workers raising the alarm about being uninformed, unprotected, and frightened. Official statements claimed every possible safety precaution was being taken. Then a worker organizing for better safety conditions was fired. This is Chris Smalls he's talking about. And brutally insensitive remarks appeared in leaked executive meetings notes where the focus was on defending Amazon talking points. And then basically he talks about how warehouse workers reached out to the climate initiative for support. Let's just go down a little bit. It's a long letter. So down further, I want to just go. Poison, firing. Let me just do this right here. Firing whistleblowers isn't just a side effect of macroeconomic forces, nor is it intrinsic to the function of the free market. Of course, I have some disagreements with this, but this is evidence of a guy's conscience reacting against the system he's in. It's an evidence of a vein of toxicity running through company culture. I choose to neither serve nor drink the poison. Now, of course, I totally object to the idea of Amazon as a uniquely toxic culture. It might be in some ways, but these structural conditions that are in place to completely abuse labor obviously transcend Amazon. And he goes on to talk about how he believes the testimony of the workers, the very easy and simple steps that could be taken to take care of this. And he says France is doing it. I have to say France is doing it because France still has a powerful labor union presence. But the criticisms are small and totally pale in the face of the incredibly brave decision that this guy, Tim Brave, took, and his enormous personal integrity and incredible commitment that he has to the well-being of his fellow human beings and workers in Amazon. And I will say, because the terrain right now is primarily PR, this is very significant to have a guy with that level of power and influence and frankly cultural capital come out and say clearly and succinctly what Amazon is doing and how he can't be a part of it. That's powerful stuff. And so he deserves a huge amount of personal credit, and we've got to amplify it to keep the fire on Amazon. Yeah,
absolutely. So Wildfire's actually been in conversations about working with Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. And if I'd known we were doing this piece, I would have read our like intake conversation notes with them. But it's, when people with power do this, it is a huge help for organizers on the ground. And there's different levels of risk that if you're getting paid nothing and you're considered expendable by the company, then sticking your neck out is a huge risk. But this is also a huge risk, and it has huge consequences for shifting the terrain upon which people can organize. Because so much of what corporate campaigning is about is entirely in the terrain of PR. Because the brand of a company can be immediately monetized, which is partly why, when different companies have environmental campaigns, the ones that are actually threatening their bottom line, that actually threatens to shift stuff structurally, are met with tremendous resistance. And the ones where the companies are like, oh, actually, this will make us look better if we adopt this policy, and it won't actually change, anything that impacts the bottom line, they're not met with resistance. And that's a pretty good metric if you have a strategy that's actually going to be impactful in the end.
Yeah. So I just want to, I just wanted to echo that and give this guy a lot of props. This isn't a really big decision he's taking, and it takes an enormous amount of courage and integrity and commitment. So we all should be there, socially for this guy too. And this is the this is important to capitalize on, because brand equity is a real thing. I mean, I think I should bring more into this show sometimes of some of the time I spent around the orbit of brands. And, yes, a lot of it's bullshit, a lot of it's hype. There's a lot to criticize about it. And we do also live in a symbolic economy, and these things carry a huge amount of weight. And when you start to, and Amazon is at that tipping point. I mean, Amazon, as Dustin pointed out, does have a lot of rightfully extremely pissed off people who are being treated obscenely by a company that not only do they know is treating them unfairly and obscenely, they can see on a daily basis the personal rewards that Jeff Bezos is getting. So it's not even like we know the shareholders are fucking us. We know, like, there's a very particular dynamic of, we could not be more cheap and petty. It wouldn't even be possible. And this egg-headed guy is like living out, making up for having a bad high school experience in front of us every day, right? That is a very, that's a very strong dynamic. And Amazon is getting, it's veering into the territory. And I think this is tricky, because on one hand, I don't think we should be about demonizing individual companies, because it is a structural question. And at the same time, when you're working on specific campaign, like Walmart hit a point where it became the stand-in for a lot of problems. And as I say, I think we don't want to just talk about Walmart or Amazon in a structural sense. And when a company gets to that position where they really just start to get personally associated with a problem, that's when they get worried. I mean, especially in the modern context, like that is where brand value can get threatened.
I just wanted to make sure that people realize, the stakes of this fight. As we got the news today that an Amazon worker died, a worker from the Staten Island facility, where Chris Smalls was coming out and being a whistleblower and telling the truth about the failures of this massive global corporation to provide the basic safety needs of their employees. Right. So this is crucially like a life and death situation for so many people. And, it's encouraging that, this person is deciding to stand, with the workers and the people affected, instead of sort of cozying up to the other members of the C-suite. But, it's making very clear the kind of brutal system that provides our basic, our basic services in this society and this economy. And, we really need to be, to fight back against it. And it's encouraging that people are being brave enough to stand up against it in a time where it doesn't seem like that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Let's pull up this article. I want to talk a little bit about the Michael Moore movie, but actually first, let me, we got a couple of Discord questions I'm getting texted, so I might throw out a few questions first. Dave from Jamaica says, Dan Crenshaw, let's say, lacks a depth to perceive the topic at hand. Am I the only one looking at it this way? I like that. Dave's definitely, that's very much my kind of humor. Just like, I think I'm getting 50% of what you're saying. I didn't know I would get a preview of the last season of Jack Ryan, right? Okay, we actually did talk about the Marxist text. The party in power in Pakistan ran on a progressive platform for 2 decades. The people who funded the power pushed out all the progressive advisors. Now it's the most neoliberal platform in history. Things are worse in India with fascists in charge. The amount of power global capital has is insane, yet it can't solve Kashmir, which would be good for business. Global capital is not as smart or monolithic as we think. Other interests, tiny in comparison, can create competing. I don't actually follow the rest of it, but that is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's like, you know, in a way, you know, to go back to like the kind of Marxist understanding of capital. Actually, it's that capitalism provides a kind of more rational system than these kind of like, you know, like then for example like a religious persecution or religious hatred, right? Like capitalism is able to, because like the law of business sort of overcomes those prejudices, like, you know, in an idea. It's like, so yeah, I don't think that folks necessarily believe that, you know, the entire everything that's happening in the world is governed by the logic of business, because there are obviously lots of other forces out there, and Kashmir is an example of that.
And there is huge business. I mean, although I do think that part of the reason, I mean, they're doing this because they can basically, you know, there's major business opportunities in terms of ski resorts, vacation, agriculture. I mean, there's a lot that can be done with Kashmir when you push out key parts of the population there.
Yeah, business opportunities for certain groups, right? And that's the fundamental calculus there.
Absolutely.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.